Guten Tag, it's Rich from Hughes and Kettner, and I'm here today with Mr.
Axel Ritt of Gravedigger.
Axel Ritt from the band Gravedigger is here, and yeah, we're going to go around the stage and look at everything, but let me just put this in a bit of context for you. We got a picture from you from tour from a couple of weeks ago. The band's on tour in Germany and around Europe at the moment. It was of your dual TriAmp rig with your pedal board and the deflex system there, and people online just went crazy. They were like, what the hell is this? What is this guy doing every day? So we thought we'd come by in Saarbrücken, Germany and check out what was going on. So
yeah, it's in, as you can see, it's a pretty, let's call it vintage stuff, because it's wired as it has been in the last 30 years ago, and so it's not the preset mode, it's in Stompbox mode, and all the effects are on the pedal board over here. And maybe we're gonna introduce all the stuff to you, and I'll take this one. I'll take this. And the thing is, we do have here two TriAmp Mark III of Hughes and Kettner, and it's not a stereo setup, it's a mono setup, and one of the amps is spare, so I'm always running the two cabinets over there, and with one amp, and if it breaks down, normally Hughes and Kettner don't break down, but you'll never know. We do have a second one over there, so only putting the cables in the second one, everything is fine. And the main thing is I do have, let's call it, two lines in here. And we have a line with the effects before the preamp of the amp, and one is in the effects loop, in the zero effects loop. So let's get on our knees and I'll show you a little bit one. So we have the guitar. I'll tell you a little bit more to the guitar later. And we do have a Digitech tuner. Then we do have a Molly pedal. We do have, from there we're going to the Harmony Man of Digitech. And in the Digitech, in the loop of the Harmony Man, there are two distortion pedals. One is the Super Overdrive by Boss, and one is my upcoming signature distortion pedal. And it's a prototype at now, and there will be some more words when it's the right one or the final one. And so at the moment it's just a prototype, so I don't want to talk too much over there, but as you can see, the black and white stripes, you know who it is. Yeah? So this is, and then in the end, from the Harmony Man it goes to the Whammy pedal, and from the Whammy pedal to the input of the amp. So this is the signal path before the amp. And then we have something in the loop, which is a flanger by iStorm Digitech. We got a delay by Digitech, we got a reverb by Digitech. And I do have a famed 10-band EQ, because sometimes when you're on tour, you have to work with, sometimes maybe, with our cabinets. Because we, for example, the last tour, we had some problems with the stage, and we decided to use the cabinets who've been already there, and so I can move a little bit of the frequencies, because as you know, there are the rock drivers in the Hughes and Kettner cabinets who are very special, work absolutely great with the TriAmp, but sometimes if you have the setup done for these speakers and going back to some Celestial or whatever, then the frequencies, especially in the mids, are different, and so I can change them a little bit to get it more in the direction of the rock drivers. Yeah. So this is in short words, short terms, and then I use a deflex system. I got 4 of them. It's a kind of it works with reflections, and the thing is, let's say that you have 8 speakers in here now. And I use the cabinets on the side because I'd like to get the sound to the sides as well, over the stage, because you can see the cabinets are built as side fills. Yeah, so we're not on the back, something like this. And if you go in a setup like this, I do have 2 speakers directly for me across the stage. I have 2 speakers with a deflex for doing the sound when I'm pretty close to the cabinet. I have 1 speaker who is going in the direction of the drummer. I have 1 deflex when I'm, let's say, like here, can hear everything. I have 1 speaker for the audience, for the first rows. And I have 1 speaker if I'm doing the big posing stuff for some solo effects. Yeah, so it all makes sense, and the sound on stage is pretty awesome. Although I'm working with in-ears, but it's a mixture. It's very quiet in-ears, so I get a lot of the sound from the speakers from the stage. So it makes sense to work with D-Flex, even when you're using an in-ear set. So I think that is the first row.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's like a big sort of main overview of everything that happens. But I want to go into a bit of detail about the sounds that you're getting throughout the show and stuff like that. So maybe we can just take a little look at the amps first. What are your main channels and what are the main sounds that you're using across the TriAmp?
The main channels for me, I'm using, in the end, I use, let's say, 4 of the 6 channels. The main channel, especially for Gravedigger, is a 2B. And because it sounds pretty similar to some kind of old Marshall stuff, 50 watt Marshall, and it's switched on 50 watt as well in here. And the typical Gravedigger sound in the 80s was the 50 watt Marshall or the distortion pedal with this overdrive pedal over there. And so I decided for the old songs we are using, I'm using this channel full cranked up with the pedal, or sometimes without the pedal, depending on how much gain you need. For the newer Gravedigger sounds, I'm using the 2B over here, so this one, yeah. And doing some more low end, some more punch, and we do have a lot of drop D songs in our actual playlist. And for these songs, I'm using this one because there's more. Yeah, not call it modern, but it's a little bit more punch in there. Yeah. And for the clean one, of course, it's the 1A, yeah, all the way through. And for some typical picking stuff, I'll do some impressions for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. It would also be cool if you could maybe, just in case there's anyone watching who might not know, give an example of maybe kind of a core song from the old school stuff and the modern stuff that they can listen to and check out the sounds, yeah.
So let's start with some classical Gravedigger, one of the very famous songs. Yeah, this was Heavy Metal Breakdown, for example, and this is with the pedal, and this is without the pedal. So it's not a big difference. It's more regarding sustain. Very, very less gain, only a little bit more sustain.
So you're using the Boss Super Overdrive just to give a little bit more. Yeah. Okay.
And to show the more modern stuff, it makes sense to do shortly drop D for a second.
Is there a certain point in the band's career where you guys made a choice that you were going to go down to a drop tuning or anything?
Yeah. Well, we do a mix of both. Yeah, and it's if you do it a little bit more heavy, then the drop D is a good thing, without changing the style completely. Yeah, the band did even a record where they did a complete 2 steps down, so on D, not drop D, completely D, and it didn't sound like Gravedigger. Not anymore, because as soon as Chris opened his mouth, it's Gravedigger, yeah, because he's the boss and everybody. But the resonance of of course you know what I mean. The resonance of the guitars and of the sounds goes down, which makes it modern. And Gravedigger it's not a modern band; it's a traditional band, and give the people what they want. Yeah. There are other bands who fit a lot better with a D tuning, for example. Yeah? And so on. This is now the modern.
It's a more chunky sound for sure.
And then we do have the clean one. Let's go back to this one.
For the ballads?
Of course, for the girls. The girls stuff.
What percentage of the set is clean?
But we do have, let's say, 4 or 5 songs where some verse stuff is clean. Yeah? And this works great, of course, with the delay. like a lot of the TriAmp is it's not these synthetic clean. You know, there's always a very small crunch in there if you do like with a very tiny saturation, which I like a lot. And it's a little bit in this, let's say, this Fender stuff here, and it's great. But you have to take care of the gain knob. For example, if you see here, it's only on 9, because otherwise, if you move this to 12, for example, it's also almost a crunch sound, yeah? Because of the EMG stuff in the guitars. We'll tell you a little bit later of the guitars. Yeah, and maybe some stuff on the effect bottle. Of course, the delay. You have the reverb.
You're a Digitech artist, I take it.
Yes. How did you know?
Just a guess.
Yeah, I like the company a lot. Doing great work. And yeah, and we do have for the intro of Tattooed Rider, we do have the flanger. And I do have the Whammy for only this kind of stuff. If you don't have a Whammy bar at your guitar, because I'm not that kind of fan with a vibrator system on the guitar, so I do it with the pedal. And at one point I have to do an octave. And yeah, the octave stuff I used to do with the Harmony Man in regular cases, but while the tour I found out that this octave sounds a little better. It's a bit about direction. And yeah, of course, a bubble. Nice one from Morley, so you don't have to push a knob, and it's activated by putting that.
So what was your reasoning behind choosing to use the amp on the Stompbox mode versus presets? Is it just too complicated in a live environment, or is it just Stompbox mode is all that you need, really?
I think the second one. It's exactly, it's all I need, because there, of course, when you're doing the preset stuff, you can do a lot more easier doing 4 switches at the same time, yeah. And at the first glance, you think, yeah, this is a better solution. But the thing is, if you want to use, for example, these yeah, maybe some vintage or old style pedals, you have to work with the loopers then, yeah, and the loopers have to do MIDI and. And yeah, of course, but in my case, I love to, well, let's say, if you do the step dance in here, yeah, it's organic, yeah. Maybe if you switch this, then the rest of the last note hangs a little over, and it's not cut exactly, and to make it more organic. And for well, an old style organic band like Gravedigger, it's fine if there are some parts were not that perfect that it could be done with the preset mode, for example. Yeah? And so I came back. I worked a long time with the preset mode, but to have the chance to say, yeah, let's use the Stompbox mode is a lot more. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if it's all you need, it's all you need. Yeah, so that's the amp. Because you're running it in Stompbox mode, then that means you're always running the same power tube selection in there. So let's maybe take a look across at the amp and see. No?
I change between the power tube selection as well. As you can see, for example, let's say here. Oh yeah, it's a good one. Of course, in the let's say the traditional Gravedigger sound, I only use the EL32, a pair of. But then to get, for example, the clean sound as loud as possible, you see they are all 6 switched on. Yeah. Yeah. And on the modern way, that's very funny, I use half of the EL4 and half of the 6L6.
Okay, yeah.
And sometimes I also use this sound, which got these, yeah, what's called it, the American style, which 4 tubes 6L6.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is I stored this for this Stompbox mode, and looks great.
Okay, cool. Let's move across to the amp one more time then and talk about the deflex system, because a lot of people who saw the picture were like, Okay, it looks like it's somehow stopping you from getting the massive volume right in your face, but as you've already explained, there's a bunch of speakers doing a bunch of different things. So tell us in a bit more detail what exactly the Deflex does and why you chose it and why you need it, I guess.
Well, the main thing is everybody knows if you got a 412 cabinet, for example, standing in front of the 412, and you're blown away. Yeah, it's incredible loud. And it's got this beam. Yeah, so when you're in front of the speaker, you have the very high frequencies, and that's because all the microphones are not right at the cone. They are more on the outside. And so the problem always was for me when I was standing in front of the cabinet, for example, like this. Yeah, my legs get great sound, but unfortunately my ears are not at my legs. Yeah? And on the other hand, the bass player over there said, "You're fucking you're crazy, man. And can you turn down the volume?" And I said, "But I can't hear myself." Yeah? So of course then you can move a cabinet up to there, yeah, or you can do something totally different. So in this case, as I said, I have speakers who are going the whole way through to the other end of the stage. So the singer get a big volume of the guitar, doesn't need that much guitar in his wedge, for example. The same for the bass player. And when I'm standing here, you see the lower speaker, it's get here, and gets like that. So when I stand here, for example, it's the same for me, like doing this, but without the beam. So the aggressive treble, which is with a high gain guitar, gets out of the sound. Yeah. So it's like a kind of, let's call it surround sound. You see that you have T's, you have these, you have then that one, and over there, and this double. So it's like a great sound in the sky, you can quote, for example. And it's different when you see, if you're standing here, you can hear, or you can tell the people what's the difference, while instead of having two big beams going across the stage.
How did you come across the system? Was it a problem for you that you were looking around for a solution for it, or did the company?
The Deflex is built by an Austrian engineer called Hubert Hochleitner, and his nickname is Hovi. And Hovi, I can't remember exactly how. I think he sent one product over for a review for the Amazona DE magazine, and right. And I was very impressed because I thought, well, this looks like a funny kind of plastic. Yeah, okay, let's check it out. Can't be that awesome, to be honest. Yeah, but then when I put it in front of the speaker and switch it on, I said, wow. And then the main thing is these parts are very great for rehearsal rooms, because rehearsal rooms, they're all very small, yeah? And it's always very difficult to hear what you're playing without annoying the other ones with your volume, yeah? And so you can turn the amp pretty down regarding volume, but you hear you very well, and because it was reflected to the roof, not to the roof, sorry, to the ceiling and to the walls, it's got a lot better sound than without this. Yeah. And of course, they're handmade, they're not that cheap, and everybody keeps on telling, well, this kind of plastic can do my own, my brother or my friend got a manufacturer of whatever, yeah. Yeah, but it's not, because it's the angles where these Deflex are made are very precise. He did a lot of mathematics to get the perfect angle. Only putting something like that in front, you get phase problems, for example, and it's not the same. So I always say, check it out, because I can talk 2 hours and nobody knows what I'm talking about. Order stuff like this, check it out, and get your own impression.
Well, we'll put a link to Deflex down in the description down there, so if you are interested, if you're running a TriAmp or indeed any kind of loud amp, go and check it out. But I've been stood here on the stage while Axel's been playing a little bit, and I can still hear what you're saying, so I think they're pretty much doing their jobs in that respect, so that's cool. All right, so we've talked about the pedals, we've talked about the amp and the cabs and the Deflex system. Let's just talk a little bit about how you're miking up the setup for live use. I see 4 different mics here.
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's 3 mics, because to get as less equipment on stage as possible for the support band, the Burning Witches, I told the girl, who's Romana, who's the guitar left, stage left, that she can use my cabinets with her amplifier, because otherwise we have to do one more cab and do some more microphone. So the SM75 of Shure over there is only for her. Okay. That's why no cable is actually switched on. Yeah. And I do have 3 mics for my thing. And the main thing is these microphones are made by Heil. And it's as far as I know, it's an American company, because these are, yeah, there you can see Heil. Our front of house mixer, Peter de Wind, brought these with him to the tour. I've never heard them before, and they sound absolutely awesome. And he was the one who said, check them out, I'm sure you like them, I like them a lot. So we do have 2 microphones for the front of house guy, doing a hard panning left-right. And this one over here is just for me and goes directly to a small desk. This is my monitor mixing desk, where I get drums and all the signals from the other guys. And there's just one channel is for guitar. This is for drums and maybe sometimes vocals on there as well. Yeah? So I do my very own mixing and got my very own microphone, so I can do with it whatever I like, put it more in this direction or whatever, without hurting the sound of the front of house.
So during the show, you're actually mixing your own in-ear mix from the stage? Okay, cool. That's a good way of doing it. Awesome.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because, while the show, you think, yeah, I could have some more guitar or less guitar or whatever, and then you're starting waving to the monitor guy, and yeah, it's a lot easier to go into your own desk doing this, and it's done. Yeah, and so some years ago, I decided to do always take a small mixing desk with me for touring like this. It's an 8-channel one, whatever. And for flight shows, I have a very, very small Behringer desk, which does pretty much the same for, in a very small size.
Let's step back into the light then. Almost done with this tour, but seeing as we're here, let's talk about the guitars. You're a Framus guy, aren't you?
Yes, I'm a Framus guy. Yeah, the main thing on the guitar is a Framus build. For me, actually, I got a great new deal with them. They built all in all 5 guitars for me. This is based on a Pantera 2, and it got my typical stripe, these black and white stripe or zebra stripe layout, whatever you would like to call it. And got a great shaping, yeah. And the main thing, the main difference is the fretboard. As you can see, it's a scalloped one.
It's scalloped.
It's scalloped, yes.
Continuing the old school metal thing.
Yeah, but maybe when you see me playing, I'm doing stuff like this as well, yeah. And in regular cases, when you do have a scalloped fretboard, you're not playing full barré chords, for example, because the problem is, we all know, if you're doing more than maybe 2 or 3 notes at the same time, get the perfect pressure, get the perfect intonation, is very heavy. So in regular cases, this one is not possible, but I can do it. So why? The main reason is I use a very heavy gauge, a very heavy gauge at my strings, because it's 013 to 056 in standard tuning.
13s to 56 in standard tuning.
Yeah. As far as I know, I'm the only one. I never heard. Some told me that, of course, Stevie Ray Vaughan did as well, but he got a half note down. Yeah. But in standard tuning, I don't know nobody else, because and so the tension is the tension on the neck is something about 110 kilopound, and so they are so heavy that you can handle them like regular strings with a regular fretboard. Yeah. And but the thing is, I've started with an 09 or 010s, 30 years ago, whatever. But the problem for me was, that I only was able to play, let's say, 20 minutes or so before the string breaks, because I'm hitting very hard the string. So I came 11 or 12, and then I finally ended up at the 013. And they're selling it, so I got my signature string set by Pyramid, and they're selling very well because normal guitar players use them for downtuning. Because it got a plain G string. When you're buying a regular 12 or 13 set and tune it down, you always has this wound G string. That's the plain one on there.
Do you do a lot of string bending?
Yes. You're going to see the show tonight, don't you? Yeah. And then you will see. Yeah, of course it's a little pull. You can do, but especially on the high E string, it's very male. Let's say. But you can try it by yourself. Take it. It's not that heavy as you think. Yeah. But of course you can do more stuff like this, and it's never get out of tune. Yeah.
So the tuning is also pretty stable on this, yeah?
Yeah, it is. And it got EMG pickups. Yeah, I'm a pickup and EMG user for, I think 30 years. I think I was the very first European guitar player who got an endorsement with EMG. And everybody knows EMGs, there's nothing more to tell about it. I love them, I love the old style active one. It's 81, 85. And on the other, there are one more guitar like this, especially the same. Instead of not silver black, it's white, black and white. And a third spare guitar by Framers as well. So it's all these Framers stuff, all with these pickup combination, 81, 85, and one is 81, 81.
Okay. What's the fingerboard material on these? Is it ebony?
It's ebony. Yeah. We did some nice little. Because I'm a big dragon fan, I did put a little dragon in there. Yeah, maybe you can see. And the rest, I think it's a lot regular. They asked me if you want to have a signature model. I said, yeah, of course we can do something special to make it more unique. But the Pantera is, I'm a Les Paul guy. I came from the Les Paul, and he's pretty much in that direction, but a lot better. Don't want to talk too much about the actual Gibson stuff. And so I said, no, let's keep it. Do some small changes for me, like the layout and like the fretboard, and I'm perfect with this model.
Yeah. And you're touring with, is it 3 of pretty much exactly the same model apart from the pickup selection?
Yeah, right, that's right.
And these are made in Germany, Framers, I suppose, custom shop jobbies?
Yeah, right. They are, well, to me, I think this one is, this and the other one is made in Europe. So I think, as far as I see, they call it team build. So it's a mixture of many builders who are doing this. Some of them are in Germany, as far as I know, some in the Czech Republic, because Framers are pretty close to the Czech Republic. And some of them are the Master Build series. I think it's completely done by one Luther in Germany. It's one of the instruments they built for me is at the Master Build as well. And awesome. I like this company. I always liked it, and I prefer to work. That's why I'm with you in Kettner as well. I always prefer to work with local companies, not because of I'm German. I only work with German companies. It's because it got this. Why working with good companies, but on the other end of the world, well, the good things, exactly the best things as well, are beside your door. It's in the next door. And, makes more sense for me. So that are German guitars, German strings, German amps, and okay, the pedals are German. Well, only on.
Well, you can't have everything. Well, listen, Axel, thank you so much for taking the time to take us around your very impressive setup here. Axel Ritt, Gravedigger. Make sure that you check him out on Instagram. He's got a great page over there, and check out the Gravedigger site, gravedigger.com. No, it's not. You've got a weird internet.
It's grave-digger-clan.com.
We'll put a link down there so you don't have to type it in. Rich from Hughes and Kettner, Axel Ritt. Make sure you subscribe to us as well. We've got a whole lot more videos coming your way, and we shall see you next time. Cheers.